Okay, I want you to picture two completely different scenes.
Okay.
First one,
Right.
you're walking through Balogan Market in Lagos.
Yeah.
It's just a sensory overload.
Right. I can picture it.
You see dozens, maybe hundreds of traders, all selling almost identical shirts. And they're shouting, trying to undercut the person right next to them. That's competition. Pure, raw competition.
And now for the contrast. Picture the company that delivers water to your house. Or, the National Railway.
No shouting there.
None at all. You don't shop around. You have zero choice.
Yeah.
You buy from them and you pay the price they set, period.
And those two worlds, the screaming market and the silent monopoly, they operate under entirely different rules. And understanding those rules, we call them market structures, is key to understanding really how business works.
Exactly. And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to explore these structures. We're looking at how the way a market is set up, who's selling, what they're selling, how that dictates everything. The price, the quality, and your choices.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Because that difference feels like everything. It's the difference between a tiny profit and, well, an astronomical one.
Before we jump into the types, let's just clarify a term. When we say market, we're not only talking about a physical spot like Woo's Market.
Right, even though my mind immediately goes to a specific tomato stall.
And that's a perfect example. But economically, a market is really just it's the interaction. It's any place, physical or digital, where buyers and sellers meet to exchange something.
So Jumia, Amazon, even something like Fiverr, those are all markets.
They are all markets. It's the exchange that matters.
Okay, so if the market is just the interaction, what defines its structure? What are the key ingredients that decide if we're in a free-for-all or facing a single gatekeeper?
There are three main pillars. First, and it's the most obvious one,
Let me guess. The number of sellers.
the number of buyers and sellers. Exactly. Are there thousands of little guys or just, 3 or 4 huge ones?
Simple enough. Fewer sellers, more power for them.
Precisely. The second pillar is all about the product itself. How similar are the products being sold?
So are we talking about something like wheat, which is basically identical everywhere?
A commodity, yes. Or are we talking about something highly differentiated, like different brands of sneakers or smartphones?
And the third pillar. Our sources seem to suggest this one is the real game changer.
It is. It's how easy it is to enter or leave the business. Economists call them barriers to entry.
So how much money and I guess how many permits do you need to even start competing?
Exactly. If you need billions of dollars and a government license to get started, that barrier keeps the existing players very, very powerful. And it's what regulators often focus on.
Because if you can lower that barrier, you can change the whole game.
You can inject competition right into the heart of the market.
All right, let's use those three pillars then. Players, product, and barriers to explore the four main structures. Let's start with the most competitive one, the ideal, almost.
That would be perfect competition. And you're right, it's often more of a theoretical benchmark.
So what defines it?
Many, many sellers. Products that are basically identical and crucially, free entry and exit. It's easy to get in, easy to get out.
The classic example being those vegetable sellers we mentioned. Your tomatoes are pretty much the same as the tomatoes at the next stall over.
And if you try to charge even a tiny bit more than the going rate,
The customer just walks 2 feet to the next person.
instantly. The sellers in this market are called price takers. They don't make the price, the market does. Supply and demand on that day sets the price for everyone.
And the outcome for those sellers is, well, it's pretty brutal. The sources say they only earn a normal profit. Let's unpack that term because normal profit sounds pretty good to me.
It's a really important economic concept. Normal profit actually means you're making zero economic profit.
Zero.
In simple terms, it means you're earning just enough to cover all your costs, and that includes the opportunity cost. So you're earning just enough to make it worth your while, but not a penny more. You're covering what you could have earned doing something else.
So you're basically just treading water. If that's the case, why doesn't one seller just innovate, find a better way to do things to get an edge?
That's the trap of perfect competition. Because there are no barriers and the product isn't differentiated, if you find a slightly better way to do something, your competitor can copy you tomorrow.
So there's no incentive.
Very little. It's an amazing structure for consumers. You get the lowest possible price. But it's tough for producers.
Okay, that trade-off is fascinating. So let's move one step away from that to a place where businesses can finally get a little bit of power.
That brings us to monopolistic competition.
And this is the one we probably see the most in our daily lives, Arch.
Absolutely. You still have a lot of sellers, and the barriers to entry are still pretty low. But the huge difference is that each business offers a slightly differentiated product.
So think restaurants, or hair salons, shoe brands, tailors.
Perfect examples. They're all doing a similar job, but they separate themselves through branding, service, location, a unique style.
And that little bit of uniqueness, that differentiation, that's what gives them some power over their price.
Exactly. They are no longer pure price takers. If people love your salon's atmosphere, they might pay a little more to go there instead of the one down the street.
Which means advertising suddenly becomes incredibly important. You're not just selling a haircut, you're selling an experience.
You're selling a brand. You're competing on style and quality, not just on price. And what's interesting here is that a firm might make some really good profits in the short term if they hit on something unique.
But I sense a but coming.
But because it's still easy to enter the market, that success attracts new competitors who copy or improve on that idea. And over time, those extra profits get competed away.
So in the long run, they also get pushed back down towards that normal profit level.
Often, yes. The treadmill is just a bit fancier.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. When we move into the markets where the barriers to entry become like giant walls.
And competition gets much, much thinner. Welcome to the oligopoly.
Oligopoly. A few big players dominating everything.
That's the definition. A handful of large firms control almost the entire market supply.
The immediate examples that jump out are the big telecom companies. NTN, Airtel, Glo.
Or the soft drink market. You've got Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and maybe a few others, and that's basically it.
And the reason there are only a few is because of those massive entry barriers we talked about.
Extremely high barriers. For a new telecom company, it's not just about money. You have to get spectrum licenses from the government, build a nationwide network. We're talking billions and billions of dollars in investment.
Which means the few companies that are already in have a huge protective moat around them.
A very deep one. And because there are only a few of them, they become hyper aware of each other. They're interdependent.
Meaning if one of them makes a move,
everyone has to react. If Airtel slashes its data prices, MTN and Glo have to respond almost immediately, or they'll lose millions of customers overnight.
They get locked in this kind of strategic game with each other.
It is. It's pure game theory. And it often leads to something called price rigidity. They all know that a price war hurts everyone. If they all cut prices, they all just make less money.
So instead of fighting on price, they fight with advertising.
Massive advertising budgets. They pour money into celebrity endorsements and marketing campaigns to convince you that their fizzy brown sugar water is somehow better than the other guy's identical fizzy brown sugar water.
Right. They're trying to steal customers without starting a war.
Yeah.
But this brings up a really big risk, doesn't it? The risk of collusion.
The biggest risk. The few firms might secretly, or sometimes just tacitly agree to keep prices high and stable. They effectively act like a shared monopoly.
It's just terrible for consumers.
It's terrible for consumers. Yeah. And it leads us right to the final structure, the end of the line for competition.
A monopoly.
One seller. Total control.
No competition at all.
Zero. A monopoly is when a single firm controls the entire supply of a product, and, this is critical, there are no close substitutes.
The classic examples are things like the local power company, the water board, maybe a railway line.
Or a pharmaceutical company that has the sole patent on a new life-saving drug.
And because they're the only game in town, they are a price maker.
They don't take the price, they make the price. They can choose whatever price will maximize their profit, and you either pay it or you go without.
That immediately sounds awful. High prices, no reason to improve service. Because where else are you going to go?
And that is often the reality. But there's an important nuance here, which is the idea of a natural monopoly.
What's that?
It's a situation where the cost of the infrastructure is so incredibly high that it would be wasteful and inefficient for more than one company to build it.
Ah, like laying a second set of water pipes under every street in a city.
Exactly. It makes no economic sense. In those cases, having one provider is actually the most efficient solution.
But that provider would still have all the power to exploit people.
Which is why they have to be heavily regulated. And that brings us to the role of government in all of this.
Right. With so much power in the hands of oligopolies and monopolies, government has to step in.
It seems almost unavoidable. The main goal is pretty straightforward. Protect the consumer from exploitation. And Where possible, encourage more competition.
How do they actually do that, though? I imagine it's more complicated than just calling up a CEO and saying, be nicer.
It's very technical. For a natural monopoly, like a utility, they might use something called price cap regulation, where they set a maximum price that can be charged.
Or they might limit the profit the company's allowed to make on its investments.
Right, rate of return regulation. And for oligopolies, they're constantly on the lookout for anti-competitive behavior.
Like the Nigerian Communications Commission, the NCC, watching the telecoms.
Or the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, the FCCPC, which looks for things like price fixing across all sorts of industries. These agencies exist because a concentrated market, if left alone, will almost never serve the consumer's best interests.
But that raises a really important question for me. We're relying on these regulators to protect us. What happens when they're outgunned?
Explain what you mean.
Well, they're trying to regulate these giant multinational corporations that have more money, more lawyers, and frankly, more data than they do.
It's a huge problem. It's called the information gap. The company always knows its own costs and strategies better than the regulator does.
And there's the risk of regulatory capture, isn't there? Where the regulator starts acting in the interests of the industry instead of the public.
A very real risk. The structure demands regulation, but the regulation itself is flawed and complex.
So when we put this all together, what does it mean for you, the listener?
It means that every time you buy something, you are playing in one of these four arenas.
Yeah.
Whether you're haggling in a market, choosing between two big phone brands, or just paying your electricity bill.
The amount of competition in that arena is what determines the price you pay, the quality you get, and the choices you have.
That's the core takeaway. More competition is almost always better for the consumer.
Which brings us to our final thought. Something for you to mull over.
We've said that a regulated monopoly can sometimes be the most efficient way to deliver a service, like water.
And we've said that oligopolies sometimes avoid price wars through a kind of cooperation, which leads to stability.
So here's the question. If a regulated monopoly is efficient, and if stable prices from an oligopoly are predictable, where exactly is the line between market behavior that's efficient and stable and behavior that is just purely exploitative?
How much price stability are you willing to trade for more competition? For the chaos and the price wars that might actually save you money?
It's something to think about the next time you look at your phone bill and realize that out of hundreds of potential companies in the world, you really only have three choices.